Hi class, Tanya Hertz here. I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of giving a presentation for those of you who haven't gone over this in one of the classes before. So these are the features of a good presentation. You can use this for any presentation in any class. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the PowerPoints now. And start by talking a little bit about how you actually deliver the presentation. You want to try to have a blend of conversationalism, yet still keeping the tone professional. Don't read the slides. Don't read verbatim from your notes. It's better if you tell a story. If you tell the presentation like you're talking to a colleague, talking to a friend. And that's also helpful because then if you're telling it more like a story rather than memorizing every line of the presentation, it's not as big of a deal if you forget something, right? Now, it's okay to have notes with you. It's okay to glance at your notes. What's not okay is it's not okay to read verbatim, line by line from the notes, right? So remember, your presentation is not your PowerPoint slides. It's not whatever presentation tool you're using. It's not the technology that you're using. It is you. You standing up there in front of the audience and being able to convey something that's really complicated in a very clear, concise, simple, entertaining way. And it's difficult to make something complicated seem simple. And if you can do that, you're a good presenter. Now, a good rule of thumb is to plan to have for every slide to talk for about a minute. Right? Or so for every minute of presentation time, include one slide, inversely. Your slides should not have the entire content of your presentation on them. You should use bullets for your slides, not sentences. That means there's no periods at the end of bullets, right? And the bullets should have sub-bullets like we have here, rather than just bulleted lists where it's all along the side. Give the eyes a chance to take a break. Include photos. The more photos, the better, as long as they're relevant and they add value to the presentation. If they're not relevant, don't include them. If it's clip art, don't include it unless it's really something that adds that value. And it's a good idea to have to graphs, charts, anything that you can say a lot in a little amount of space is a great thing. Have your charts come in, just appear. Don't use that 1980s bouncing in and out technology or the whatever slide transitions that they have nowadays. Still don't use them. Keep it business, keep it professional. Now, the beginning is very important. You are being judged by the audience from the moment that you step up into the front of the audience. That means that you need to have your slides ready to go. Before the presentation, I recommend, even if you are accessing your slides on a digital or the cloud or online or something like this, make sure that you download them and actually physically put them onto the desktop or a file so that you can access them there without having to necessarily get back into the internet. I've seen so many times in presentations where we just lose the connection and then people are standing in front of the audience for 5-10 minutes trying to find their slides and feeling nervous and getting jittery, and just avoid that by getting it ready ahead of time and putting them on the desktop. Now, in terms of introductions should be short, they should be sweet, but they should also cover all of the relevant data. That's the people's names, first name and last name. First name only is informal. The title of the presentation, and then a 1 to 2 sentence overview of the presentation, not of the background of what you're talking about or anything else. It's what will be covered in this presentation. Right? And it doesn't matter if you do it with one person or 2 people or the entire team, but have it figured out beforehand. Right? Know your order, know who's speaking, know where you're standing, and practice it beforehand, because we can all tell in the audience if you have not yet practiced it. It's a good idea to start with a question, but I've seen so many people do this and do it wrong. And the easiest way to do this wrong is to ask a question that doesn't have a clear yes or no, or hands up or hands down answer. If you ask a question and just sort of talk, and I just saw a presentation like this the other day where they asked a question, and the question was, have you ever done something like this? And then what did it look like? And how did it feel? But then they didn't really even give you time to think about it. They just sort of added things and added things. And at the end of the question, the audience is looking around saying like, how are we supposed to respond? Are we supposed to raise our hands? What are we supposed to do? So don't do that to your audience, because then it already starts them off feeling a little uncomfortable. Make it simple, make it straightforward, or start with a story, anything engaging, painting a picture. You really want to hook that audience in, but keep it professional and keep your slides simple. The slides in class are often, that we use in class, are often very, well, they have a little too much on them. They're a little bit cluttered because I want you to perhaps use them to study from or to come back and refer to them. But your slides should just be a reinforcement of your story. So keep them very simple. So imagine this is a slide on this side. This is a slide on the other. Bad slide, good slide. I think you can see why. Bullets are not sentences. I already told you. Make sure the grammar and spelling is correct. Write words out if it's 0 to 10, numbers more than. Keep it professional. But humor, again, is good as long as it's professional. And this is a tricky balance. I shared with you some slides about doing this, or you can look up how to interject humor without going over the line. Remember, it still needs to be professional. And avoid, and I know that it's a college level presentation and a business presentation, and so you think, well, I can curse a little bit here and there. And that may be true, but you also, you don't want to offend your audience. And so it's better just to avoid anything that could be inflammatory or offend anyone in business. We keep it kind of PC. Right? So here's some basics of the slides, what they should look like, how they should be. You'll want to have a title slide with all the information on it. Make sure this information is on your slide. So all of the presenters' names, first and last name, alphabetical order, by last name, the class name, the class name and number, right? The date that you're presenting, the subject or title, right? It's a title slide. And then this is what the bullet slides look like. You've seen them. You'll want to keep your title font size large. Now, logos are optional. There is conflicting opinions on logos on slides. It's very often they are required for certain companies, for certain certain things that we do. But it's up to you. It's up to you. You can build your own logo. You can make a logo for your company. There are, I'll share with you maybe some, well, no, I'll just tell you right now. If you want to make a logo, there's so many free places online that you can just type in free logo creator, and within 2 minutes you can make your own logo for your team if you'd like. Make sure you include a reference on the slides themselves, only the name who's presenting on, only the name of the person who is presenting on that particular slide. If you introduce the people by their first name and last name, then you would include that here. If you did not use their last name for some reason in the introduction, if it is a really informal presentation, then keep that first name also on the slide so that we know who it is, right? Don't ever go smaller than 16. Actually, 16 is too small. You should keep it larger than that. Remember, the back row needs to see it. You always want page numbers on the slides. And yeah, so that's that. Don't flip your own slides if you're presenting in a team. People have a tendency to hang on to the lectern, to hide behind the lectern. Now the rule, or the exception to that rule, is if you do have a clicker. If you have a clicker, then flip away, right? And I don't care where you stand, left side, right side, just know where you're standing, and make sure that you're not standing in front of the projector. It is distracting, and it is, it can distract both the audience and the presenter, because the projector goes into your eyes and it projects onto your face. And so better just stand on the sides. It's a good idea to move around, but try to keep it natural, the movements. Keep your gestures natural, your movements natural, as much as possible. Move without just walking back and forth like a robot, right? Or crossing the screen, right? So create talking points, practice your pitch, stand up when you're practicing, time yourself. First time yourself individually. So if it's a 10-minute presentation, there's 5 presenters, You each should only be presenting on 2 slides and no more than 2 minutes each. Now, it doesn't have to be even, like I said, but good rule of thumb, right? So time yourself individually, get together, practice, time yourself as a team. See if you sped up, see if you slowed down. I will tell you, more often than not, people will time themselves and they'll say, hey, wow, I came in just at the 10-minute mark, I'm doing great. Usually on presentation day, it adds, most teams add at least a minute or two to their presentation time. So knowing that is a tendency with human beings, keep your presentation shorter than you think they would need to be. Okay, if you go over on time, I will mark you down. I will not mark you down for going under on time within reason, right? Within reason, if it's just a couple minutes under. It's just because I've almost never had a team in almost 10 years of teaching go under in time. And the same is true in my business as well. I've been for 20 some years I've been in business, and every time somebody asks to present to my employees or to present to my team, something like this, then what ends up happening is they'll go over on time, right? I tell them, sure, you can have 10 minutes, and they go over, and I always am having to say, okay, that's it, we're out of time, we're done. And I didn't used to do it, but I'm started to realize over the years that people will talk forever if you let them. Case in point, I should get this done. Make sure that you're rehearsing together, like I said. Be consistent with the terminology you use, our team, be company. Make sure that when you're speaking, you're not using you and your. It's unprofessional, just like you wouldn't do it in an academic or a business paper. You would say the employee, potential customers, something like this. You wouldn't say, you should do this, or your is this. Think about who the audience is. It's not, you're not presenting you or yours should be doing this. Does that make sense? I hope. You can't respond to me. This is asynchronous communication, but whatever. Transitions, it's up to you how you want to do the transitions between the team members. But keep it consistent. Make sure that you're not doing very awkward handoffs where you're going back and forth between one another, but you can introduce the next speaker. Now, if I were to introduce the next speaker and say, and now Tina will talk to you about the problem and solution, Tina should not say, hi, I'm Tina, and now I will talk to you about the problem and solution, right? You should not ever repeat the handoff. Make sure that it flows. And dress professionally on the big day, right? No athletic, but what does professional mean? Okay, so we're okay with business casual in a presentation, but keep it business casual at very least. So business professional is great, business casual is great, jeans and t-shirts and flip-flops, not okay, right? Athletic shoes can be okay as long as they're clean, they're not ripped, they don't have any tears, especially if you wear those athletic shoes with slacks. Even jeans are okay as long as they're dark jeans, not ripped, right? Any collared shirt, polo shirt is fine. Sandals for men or women are fine as long as they're neat. You have to be careful though. There's a fine line between flip-flops and sandals. And I had an employee he was such a great employee, but he wanted to wear flip-flops for everything. He would wear a business suit and flip-flops, but when in doubt, dress it up a little bit, go a little more professional than you'd think you'd need to be. Here's some examples. Anyone can put on a suit and look good. So it's business, keep professional. And then end strong, end strong. Let us know that the presentation is over. Just like you started with a hook, end with a bang, right? This presentation is over, so people know, right? Don't just sort of fade out or, that was it, right? or any questions, right? So you want to end as strong as you can, have a Q&A slide, let the audience know that it's time for questions, and command the room. Have at least one person who's responsible for saying, you over there, question. Yes, your turn, right? So that we know who's supposed to be speaking. I'm not going to take over here, right? Everybody should be ready to answer the questions, and you should answer the questions. Usually you should be able to answer every question in a sentence. If we want more information, we will ask for it. It's okay to do tag team responses if you feel like one of your team members didn't do a great job responding to the question, rather. Jump in and say, I'd like to add one other thing to that, and this is what it is. We already said about this. Relax, smile, speak slowly, speak clearly, and yeah. Look at the whole audience. Keep your answers short. We already said that. Turn in one, I should say this. You can turn in your PowerPoint presentation slides the day of, but make sure that they are, there's enough room for me to write on them, okay? I write all over these slides. It has to have the title in there. The first and last name of all the members need to be in there. All of that information we talked about needs to be in there so that I can write on them. Black and white is okay, front and back is okay. Please staple, because I have a tendency to lose them if they're not stapled. And I think that's it. Have a great time preparing, and I look forward to watching all of your presentations. Take care. Bye.